The only way to get people to not say your name is by doing nothing, is by saying nothing.
Exactly.
And I do not want to choose that route. Hi, I'm John Summit, and you're watching Billboard News.
We have a lot to talk about.
Yes.
Because you are a busy man. Mm-hmm. Tell me about closing out EDC and playing with Green Velvet and what that moment was like for you.
That was like absolutely surreal. Like Green Velvet's been my childhood hero for, ever since I started listening to house music. Mm-hmm. I mean, he came out with Percolator like the year I was born, 1994, which is crazy. And then closing out EDC, which is like, I feel like every DJ's dream.
Right.
I think it was like 150,000 people in the crowd, so. Which is weird, like I thought I'd be nervous walking up, but it's like so many that like you kind of like your mind can't even process. And then we just played it like a straight up Chicago house set.
Sure.
And then people liked it, so I'm happy.
Did I catch you crying for a minute there at the end?
I got a little emotional.
Okay, well tell me what was going through your mind or like your emotions at that moment, because that's a big deal.
I mean, I closed out the festival with Go Back, which is my new single with Sub Focus and Juliet Church. The writing behind it is, when I hear that sound, I want to go back, I want to go back. And then closing out the festival with that kind of brought back all the memories of doing the festival the last 4 years. And yeah, it really hit.
What is it like for you? I mean, and obviously this is not a new thing, but to be really, it seems, welcomed into the Chicago lineage by artists like Green Velvet, by guys like Lee Foss. Do you feel like you're part of a lineage there?
It's crazy because those guys, like I looked up to my whole life, really, especially being into house music. I never even thought they would even know who I was or recognize me.
Sure.
And to not only like support me, but to play with me and then to make records with me, like single with Kaskade, Resonate. Mm-hmm. That's just like, and then that connection is just crazy because he kind of has a very similar background and upbringing to me, but like 30 years prior.
Sure, right. So you're kind of following in his footsteps, so to speak. Well, I wanted to talk to you about that because it seems like you guys have maybe like a special or an in-depth relationship. Obviously, you remixed I Remember, you opened for K5 at the Coliseum, you played back-to-back with him at Hard Summer. Like, tell me about your relationship with Kaskade and what you've learned from him.
So, I met him because he just released the record with Halo called Escape, and then I put it on my Instagram story, like just kept playing it on my Instagram. I'm like, I love this record, I love this record.
Yeah.
And then he DMs me the next day. He's like, well, would you like to remix it? And that's the first time we actually got in contact with each other. And so I freaked out. I'm like, of course. And so that's actually how me and Halo met, was through that remix. And then from there, I did Where You Are with Halo and Shiver with Halo, which is like two of my favorite records of all time.
Totally, and big songs.
The fan reaction to them has been insane. Mm-hmm. So we connected it like in a very natural way because it wasn't just because of the Chicago background, it was through the music. Mm-hmm. And then once like he found out and kind of knew my background and then we met in person, we're like, oh my God, we have like so much in common. Yeah.
What have you picked up from him in terms of maybe production and also how to live this lifestyle?
It's funny because I have like, kind of a big party image and I like to party and stuff, and then Kaskade is kind of the opposite,
right.
Because he's fully sober. It has helped that he's kind of been like a little bit of a mentor for me and stuff too. It's not a normal lifestyle we live.
Yeah.
So hearing from his experience, and I think it's helped me out a lot because I did not expect to get so big so fast.
Right. Yeah.
And it's a crazy world to navigate, so.
There's much to talk about there because it's not just in the past, 3 months, it's been EDC, it's been playing Coachella, 4 times over the 2 weekends. You are headlining Madison Square Garden, you're releasing your debut album, you've got a zillion shows between now and then and beyond that.
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
I got 5 hours of sleep last night, so I'm feeling pretty good right now.
Is that a lot for you, or a little, or how does that compare?
That's as much as I can get, but yeah, I'm feeling good. I mean, I love playing shows. That's where I get energy from. I'm actually like a pretty introverted person outside my shows. So I think when I like to actually expend my energy is when I get on stage, and that's when I kind of really feed off other people's energy.
Sure.
Outside of that, I'm pretty much in my room doing this.
This is a live feed of him recharging as an introvert. So. That's so fun. Well, no, I mean, that's really interesting to me because you don't strike me, or anyone maybe, as an introvert unless people really know you. How do you balance that, and like, do you require a lot of alone time because of that?
Well, yeah, pretty much. I mean, so like, that's kind of the whole concept of my album really, is because my album's called Comfort and Chaos, which is the chaos really is the John Summit that everyone knows and sees.
Right.
But then the comfort is the John Schuster, which is me in my bedroom making music,
sure.
kind of being radio silent to everybody for like 5 days before I get back on the road. So it really is just all a balance. But yeah, it's like I feel like people only see the John Summit side, and I kind of want to show the John Schuster side of things.
I think that's super interesting because, as you said, you've had this reputation as a party guy.
Yeah.
It seems like with this album, you're moving into a new phase, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm kind of reaching that phase of my life too, where like I do still love to party, and I do like party on the weekends and stuff. But I wanted to kind of show more of myself that's always been there, but I haven't really been that vulnerable with my music and my art. So it's cool. It's really cool to show that side of me. You do have to take in accomplishments. If I walk off stage upset, then what's the fucking point in doing this?
Here's a cheesy question, but like, what does the world not know about John Schuster?
What does the world not know about John Schuster? Well, some of my fans know this, but I mean, on the weekdays, I just stay in and I just love to watch anime.
All right.
Yeah,
okay.
So I kind of keep my John Schuster life a little bit hidden.
Well, and you had mentioned when I think you posted on Instagram that this is the most vulnerable thing that you've done, the most vulnerable body of work. So I'm curious about what that means to you and how it feels to now be putting it out.
Well, because I kind of really just focused on the singles. You know, my whole career. I mean, my first release is 2017. They've all been singles or just like a 2-track EP since. They're all kind of really dance floor focused, and so I have had some vulnerable pieces of music and stuff where, you know, I'm like nervous about to put out, but at the end of the day, I know they still work on a dance floor. Where on this album, there's a lot of tracks. I have this one track with Venby called "Palm of My Hands," and she's this like amazing vocalist from London, and it's kind of this like rainy day liquid drum and bass vibe. Is not meant for dance floors at all.
Sure.
You have to put yourself in a vulnerable state when making that kind of music because you don't see the easy dance floor response that everyone hands in the air. It's more something that's more introspective, listen.
Right, right. And I imagine it's like, okay, if I'm not giving people the dance floor music that they know me for, are they going to like this other stuff that I'm now presenting? Exactly,
because I've never done anything like this before, but I've always, my whole career, ever since I started listening to music, you know, and I just have so many influences that I've always wanted to pursue. And I think that I'm at that point in my life and the right point in time in my career where I think this is the time to put that kind of stuff out.
Absolutely. I mean, do you feel like the last however many years since the pandemic, or you know, the moment that you really started rising, like, do you feel like you had to kind of go through that phase to get to this one? Like, did you learn through all of it to be able to make this album?
Yeah, I mean, the whole kind of concept of the album is, you know, the comfort and chaos, the duality of the highs and lows, and that has been my whole like life the last 4 years on tours, is that like having the biggest high from being on stage and like going back to your hotel room all by yourself and having like you know, pretty bad lows time to time, and but I haven't been able to reflect on that in my music at all because my music has all been meant for the high energy parts. That I'm not going to put some, you know, sad track or some introspective track. So it is cool to be able to actually represent that in my music.
Tell me about the collaborators. That like, did you know that you wanted to work with Venby and Of the Trees and Subfocus, or are these people, did they naturally come in as you were there and making the music?
I'm glad you brought up Of the Trees too, because he's an American producer as well. But then we got in contact with Clementine Douglas, who helped do the vocal for that.
Her voice is so sick.
It's so cool.
It's like unbelievable.
And the first one I knew I for sure had to make was, because the first single that is made on the album is Where You Are, which has been out. So I knew that was always going to be on my first album no matter what, because that's kind of like sonically set the tone.
Sure.
Because that was the first time kind of did lean more in a vulnerable direction with music, where it is a super high energy drop, but you know how the song starts off, where it's like, do you dream alone? And the moon's very...
Oh, it's very feelsy.
Yeah, exactly. It's like feelsy, then hands in the air kind of vibe. But so then we did Shiver together in London. And then also reached out to Elderbrook, who I've been a huge fan of.
Yeah.
And I've actually never worked with like a male vocalist like that before too, and doing a big anthem. Julia Church I got connected with. Venby, I was just a huge fan of, and just, you know, hit up. I'm like, hey, like your stuff is so cool. I don't know how this is gonna work, but you want to do something?
Yeah, I've got this slide house.
Yeah.
Come over.
And then, yeah, so it all worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I would say it did. Let's talk about the album cover, which is really interesting and kind of psychedelic, and I feel like you really have to look at it. You have to study it a bit to kind of get what's going on. Tell me about what the meaning in that is for you and how you connected with the artist.
So I got connected with Marcos Alvaro. We've been like fans of each other for years, just following each other like on Twitter and Instagram and stuff. And not only his art, but his like message, his tweets he does, like I just very much resonate with. That he's like a very introspective person, very like mindful as well.
Yeah.
And then I think his art really represents that in a more psychedelic, abstract way. And it's like very heavy on symbolism and stuff too, which I love.
Yeah.
And so he kind of took this whole concept of this, picture, comfort and chaos, but put it in his vision and his style of art. So it's cool to be able to not just take my vision and put it into music, but then also into kind of more abstract art, everything, and just collaborating with like other like really cool upcoming talent is just so fun to me.
Yeah, it's a cool cover. Like it's a resonant cover, and like I said, there's a lot to unpack in it.
And I'm in Chicago.
Take me to like some of the highest highs that you've had.
The first one that really comes to mind, besides like Out EDC, but was when I did Lollapalooza in 2022, and I opened with like the Chicago Bulls intro.
Yes.
And that's like where I fell in love with electronic music. I mean, it was literally in 2011, seeing Deadmau5 in the pouring rain there. Like I was like, okay. Because up to that point, I was like very much like an indie head and like just super into like Radiohead and Animal Collective and stuff, and going to Pitchfork Festival. And then going to that, I was like, oh, like electronic music is sick. Because it's not just the music, it's the production, it's the show, it's the community, it's everything together. And then 11 years later, I'm playing that festival. I had my whole family there, all my friends, everyone I went to college with in high school, and that was a big moment.
What do your parents think?
They love it. They're my biggest fans.
Yeah.
They're probably a little confused by everything going on. Shout out mom and dad. But they're incredibly supportive, along with my sister and her husband.
This is also not easy, what you do. And and it looks like a party all the time, and maybe people can have this perception that it's always fun. But as you mentioned, like there are lows and there are challenges. Like what are the hardest parts?
The hardest parts, honestly, it's like, I mean, I do like being by myself and stuff, but you kind of, like, especially someone that like was from Chicago, like friends with the same people growing up and everything too, it's kind of like leaving that life and totally being on your own, and then being in a different city every night, and then having all these genuine connections with people you meet one night and then never seeing them again afterwards. And now like I follow like 2,500 people on Instagram, and it's like so bad that like I wouldn't even recognize 2,000 of them by my own person. It's like, because every single night, so I don't know, it's just such a chaotic lifestyle, which I guess that makes sense with the album name too.
Yeah.
That's definitely the hardest part.
You move very quickly through the world, you connect with a lot of amazing people, you would like to see them and talk to them again, and you don't always get to do that.
Exactly. I think that's like kind of the stage I'm at in my life though too, where I was doing like 220 shows a year, and now I'm doing like 70, which still sounds like a lot. Yeah. But like, to me, that's like a healthy balance where I can still have an amazing night and, and have those genuine connections, but still, I don't know, have a little time to yourself.
Well, it sounds like you're figuring it out.
Yes.
You're learning what works, what doesn't work, and you're fine-tuning the machine.
Yeah, exactly. I guess everyone does that in life, right? I'm just doing it on a very public scale.
Exactly. We're all doing it in private for sure, but you get to do it in public for all of us. Higu said to me, if people are saying my name, it means that I'm doing super well.
Exactly.
So go ahead and say my name.
Literally.
I was like, that's such a powerful way to think about it, because then like nothing can kind of get at you.
The only way to get people to not say your name is by doing nothing. It's by saying nothing.
Exactly.
And I do not want to choose that route.
Right. Well, I mean, you are very vocal and charming and funny on social media, and that's a big part of your brand. Like, how much time do you have to invest in that? And then how do you kind of wean yourself off of it, maybe, to then focus on the music?
So that is tough, because I was never even like a big social media guy until like 2020, when it was like all you could do was like sit on like your phone and be on Twitter and stuff. Yeah. It's just funny that it really caught on with people and stuff, because I just was unapologetically posting everything. And I still do, like, I still keep up, but if I really need to like get music done and finish an album, because I spent the last 2 weeks finishing it, doing all the mixing and mastering in LA here, that's when I just like throw my phone out the window and turn my internet off on my computer.
Sure.
Turn the Wi-Fi off. So there are times when you have to turn it off and on, but I really do love social media when I'm on the road though, because when I'm like by myself at the airport, wherever, it is a way to connect with fans and other people. There's a time and place for everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking to Subtronics, I guess the week before last, and he was saying, you know, there are all these like apparent schisms in dance music, like fractures of like the bass scene hates the techno scene, or like, you know, there seems to be
the snob, this hate the other snobs.
Exactly, and he's like, you know, it's not actually like that. No. There's like so much love between all the genres. It just appears that way online. Like, what's your take on that?
It's so funny because, you know, like me and Subtronics, like, kind of like really broke the internet when we did our collab together, because we were like talking like friends and huge fans of each other's music, but like the whole world didn't know that because we're so like separate in our own lanes and have our own crowds and our different, like, you know, it felt like very high school to us. The whatever, you know, this jock table and the whatever table, you know, which is just funny. And we were like, yeah, what if we just break all modes and do a show together, and then just show that like all this is like petty bullshit as long as you like the music. And yeah, so but then also as an artist though, it was just a super fun challenge because I'm like, how do you mix a house track into a bass track back in and actually have it work? And the first time we did it was at Electric Forest at a Renegade, and like I didn't even know it was on his USB. He didn't know it was on my USB. So it was kind of like we're like doing like a little DJ battle, and it's on like YouTube. Like there are some transitions where I really mess up, but it was actually like so, I don't know, like actually authentic and raw that like fans really like, I don't know, gravitated towards it.
Yeah, and I imagine you find too that like a lot of your fans are the same people.
Yes, exactly. Like everyone has common ground in some way or another. And at the end of the day, we all love electronic music, and people in electronic music forget that this is still niche music. Like we're not breaking the charts or anything. Like this is not like, it's not pop music or anything. I mean, there are some tracks that of course are, but in like, especially like in the dubstep scene and everything too, is that like, we're all kind of on the same team here.
Well, you bring up a really interesting point because like, no one's bigger than you at the moment. But as you're saying, like, electronic music doesn't necessarily cross over the Hot 100 like it used to, or the Billboard 200, and like you don't necessarily have this mainstream crossover that maybe an artist like Avicii or Swedish House Mafia did. So electronic music is like niche, despite the fact that it's also massive. Like, how do you feel about that juxtaposition or dichotomy, I guess?
It's weird because like people like don't know who I am and stuff outside of dance, and then they're like asking me about my tour schedule, and I'm like, oh, well, I just like have MSG that I just sold out, and they're like, what? They're like the club or like the arena? And I'm like, yeah, the arena, and it just blows their mind because we do, you know, like Millennium did like SoFi Stadium and stuff, you know, but you turn on the radio, and unless you go to like a dance station, you won't hear it. Right. Some people think that's like, that means dance music has like kind of like dipped down since that era. In my opinion, that I'm a community-based person. Like I love acts that have strong communities, like Grateful Dead and Fish. I used to be a big jam band guy. Yeah. And like you're not hearing Grateful Dead on the radio. Exactly. But you go to a show and the community's also loving, and like everyone's so high energy. Not to say, you know, I wouldn't love to have a big hit or whatever, but like that has never been the goal with my music. And you know, having tracks like Where You Are and Go Back and stuff that have streamed really well is cool. But the intention, it's always been, I feel like dance music has always been fan-driven music, not like stat-driven music. Right. So, yeah, absolutely. It's like, even if the numbers aren't necessarily there on streaming, the artist can sell, as you're saying, sell at Madison Square Garden. You can sell 100,000 tickets, and like you're still very big. So, with respect to all that, what does success for the album look like for you? Success on not just the album, but music and art in general, is that so this is my opinion, is that everything nowadays has an extremely short shelf life. Right. Everyone has a short attention span. Like having like a hit for like a day on TikTok means like would be nothing to me. I want music in like a body of work that people can not just listen to now, but like listen to, you know, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, maybe show their kids or whatever, because that's what I do. That's how, like, I still listen to the same albums I listened to from high school. Yeah. I mean, like, one of my favorite albums that like was inspiring for this album was like Jamie XX in Color. Listening to that, I'm like, that is something I want to do, not just make a, you know, a pop hit and then just people forget. Sure. Yeah, you want to make a classic. Yeah, and which I think I kind of have with the singles I've done so far. I feel that with like Where You Are and Go Back and stuff. It's also it's still pretty new. I mean, I only put out Where You Are like a year ago, but yeah, that's like, I feel like that's every artist's dream, right?
I appreciate it,
Yeah.
truly, and it's nice talking to a fellow Midwesterner.
Yes,
Yeah.
the Midwest is the best, baby.